Hopefully this is all working right. I'm gonna see here. I think I could turn on super chat, sponsor chat, and live chat. Here we go. Could somebody leave like put a comment or something to tell me if this is working? Because that would be fantastic. Because I've never done this before. All right, so let's kind of get into this. Hopefully this is all working and I'm not just talking to myself because that would be really awkward. Oh, hey, Jeff's here. Sweet. Okay, this is working then. All right, let's kind of get into it. If you guys want, just pop some questions up in between when I'm asking questions. I got a question I'm going to start off with right now, so let's kind of get into it. What do you think is a realistic upcoming iOS 12 feature for the iPad? Which would you like to see ideally? Also, which Pro Tools apps features are you currently missing? Is there anything Apple can give to the developers for more freedom? So let's tackle these questions one at a time. So realistic upcoming feature in iOS 12. We heard that the iPad features and stuff are being pushed back from iOS 12 to a later iOS 13. So that's kind of a bummer, but I think we're still going to get something. On the next episode of A Slab of Glass, Jeff and I both talk a little bit about the stuff we want out of the next version of iOS, and I talk about what I want from Workflow 2.0, and I think that's really what I want. The stuff we haven't really heard what's going on with the Workflow team. That's been kept under wraps. The stuff that we have heard that's being pushed back, I don't think is connected to at least the Workflow team. So Workflow 2.0, now that Apple owns it, I'm really excited for it. I really I can see and understand all the really cool system hooks and stuff that can really come in and make this thing better. I think this light's a little too bright. There we go. That looks a little bit better now. So what Pro Tools apps features am I currently missing? I talk about this a lot, so I won't jump on too much. But for me personally, I think Xcode, Final Cut, and Logic all need to be there. I think if I could pick out of those three right now, I'd want Xcode the most. Ferrite does a great job for me to be able to edit my podcast. LumaFusion is a great video editor, but I would like to see Xcode because there really is no way to build iOS apps on iOS right now. Is there anything Apple can give to developers for more freedom? Yes. Default apps. It's been on Android for a really long time. I think default apps are something that would be really cool to do for iOS. I think basically what I mean by this is you would have if you send something to a calendar app, it wouldn't just open in the default calendar app that Apple ships. It would open in the one that you set as the default app. So Fantastical or Calendars 5 or whatever. I think that would probably help third-party developers quite a bit because I think a lot of people don't use third-party apps because you can't really just always have them as default. Safari, if you open a link, it's always going to open in Safari, whether you use iCab or Chrome or something on iOS. There's really no good way around that. Any questions from you guys so far? I'm gonna open a Coke. Okay, so moving on. Blue Sky Me, which is a task manager app you guys should check out. Blue Sky Me asks, hi Chris, we would love to hear what you want Apple to improve or add to the next iPad Pro and iOS 12. Thank you, and glad to see you back on YouTube. Well, thank you guys, I appreciate it. So, I kind of already talked about how I want Workflow to be the next iOS 12 thing. And for those that don't know, WWDC is not this coming Monday. It is the following Monday. So that's Monday, June 4th. And that's where we'll see the next version of iOS, the next version of macOS, watchOS, tvOS. We're even rumored to get some new iPads at that time too. Personally, for me, I'm ready for a new iPad design. I think it's time that we see some really cool bezel-less designs. Plus, I'd like to see Face ID. I'd like to see the iPad be a little more gesture-based and things like that. I think all that would be really cool and really handy to see. iOS 12, I would also like to see some improvements to multitasking, some more system-wide keyboard shortcuts, things like that. Let's see here. Need a workflow to call a specific contact on Skype Direct. The Skype call one, so basically, unfortunately, Workflow right now, it's kind of limited. For Skype, to pull a contact, you have to have the Skype username in the actual contact in the contacts app. You scroll down to the bottom and there's like an instant message area. You set it to Skype. Then what you can do is you can go into workflow, set contacts as the first little widget, and then set Skype right underneath that. So you'll have to manually pick from the contact every single time. I spent some time on this last night, and it kind of seems weird that there's no way to specify a contact for that, but it's really because it's pulling from Skype and it's not for like iMessage or a phone call or anything. Using an iPad to replace a laptop seems to be, or I'm sorry, let me back up. Using an iPad to replace a laptop seems like doing a ton of workarounds that take more time. Is this correct? I guess from a certain point of view, I think using an iPad to replace a laptop is really kind of a personal choice, and it really depends on what you are doing. So for me, I use an iPad to replace everything, not just a laptop. I don't even use a desktop PC. So it really just goes back to what you're doing. If you're just a writer, no, it'd probably be pretty easy. If you're somebody that's editing video, yeah, there are some workarounds. But if it's something you enjoy or something you like doing, I definitely think it's worth it. So I don't know. I guess it's kind of a very personal thing, and it's up to kind of everybody. It all really just depends. So if there's like certain workflows or workarounds you guys are looking for, let me know, and I'd be more than happy to help you guys out, of course. App recommendations for or workflow for photo organization without iCloud. Renaming or tagging, backup, keeping organized, or recovered from backups. This is a good question. I think iCloud is a good first place to start. I keep all my photos at iCloud. It's a fantastic place. But for those that don't want to rely on iCloud, I would keep your photos in some sort of cloud storage, just so that they're synced and up in a server somewhere, just in case if something happens to your device. Now, that's not the only backup. So let's walk through what I do. So first, I have everything goes to iCloud. So I take a photo. Pretty much my iPhone is the only camera I use to take a photo. So I take a photo, uploads to iCloud, iCloud gets it, and then Google Photos gets it and backs up to their service. So I have two cloud services. I use iCloud and Google Photos, and then those back up separately. Then what happens, and I have this little, it's this little application that I wrote for Mac, and it's not ready, it's not even shareable, it's not worth it, but basically all it does is it takes photos out of Photos, moves them into a folder, and then that folder gets backed up to Backblaze, which is my offsite backup. It's a service I pay for monthly. They're really, really good if you're looking for an offsite backup. And that runs just on my server. I don't even have to touch it anymore. That's something I set up years ago, pretty much after Photos came out, I think, is I wanted everything to be able to be pulled out of Photos and into a folder and then upload it. Unfortunately, it's not ready to be shared. There's a lot of personal stuff. I'm not that great of a Mac developer, so I don't even really feel comfortable sharing it, because honestly, it crashes a lot. I have to reboot my server at least once a week because of this thing, so it's not worth sharing. But definitely take your photos out of Photos or something like that and then back it up. Amazon Prime Photos lets you store raw file photos for free if you have. I did not know that. So apparently Amazon Prime, if you have that, you can save raw photos into Prime. I did not know that. That's really good. You know, Amazon Prime is very surprising to me. I think they just upped the price to $120 a year, but that's $10 a month. And there's a lot of services to it that I haven't even scratched the surface of. So I'm gonna look into that a little bit more. But yeah, if you just don't wanna pay for a service and you already have Amazon Prime, which I imagine a lot of people do now, check that out. That's pretty cool. I'm gonna have to look into that, and then I'll make a video about photo organization if you guys are interested in it. What would you have to see in a new iPad to make you pre-order it? Seems like you get an seems like you get in early on new iPads. I do get in early on new iPads. So the iPad is my choice of computer. I try not to upgrade every time an iPad comes out. In fact, I was pretty late to the current model. I only upgraded a few months ago to the current model just because my first gen iPad Pro was starting to get a little sluggish and the battery was not starting to hold up as much. As far as what it would take for me to pre-order every single time, speed improvements. So, because I do video editing and now podcast editing on here, so speed improvements would be absolutely huge. Um, New design. Usually, when a new design comes out, I get pretty excited for that. Killer features. So, like the what's the motion, the true motion, the 120 hertz display on the new iPad. That doesn't really. I know a lot of people like that. That doesn't excite me as much. I see why some people like it, but it doesn't get me as excited. Really, just for me to pre-order a new iPad, the biggest thing would be speed, new design, maybe just like a killer feature, like if there was a new smart connector keyboard or a new Apple Pencil or something like that. That would get me pretty excited. Let's see here. Anybody got any questions in the audience? Let's see here. I'd like to hear your thoughts on the multi-pad lifestyle, whether you're considering doing it, and if so, which iPad combination do you prefer? Been considering it myself, but still deciding if it's worth it. Can you tag in Apple Notes? I will come back to that, I promise. Just remind me as soon as I finish this question. Um, the multi-pad lifestyle came from the podcast called Cortex. And if you like my stuff, you're going to absolutely love their stuff if you haven't already heard of it. It's a fantastic show from Mike Hurley of the Relay FM network and CGP Grey of, well, YouTube. And they talk a lot about productivity and stuff like that, but they're both big iPad people. And when the 9.7-inch iPad Pro came out, they had this idea of they couldn't decide if they liked the 12.9 better or the 9.71 better. And they came to the realization that both were great for different tasks. So the 12.9 is great for sitting at a desk or a table and working away because you have a much bigger screen. The 9.7 and now which is the 10.5 is much better for traveling because it's lighter. It's also better for reading on a couch and things like that. I did sort of do the multi-pad lifestyle for a little while when I got the 12.9 Cortex, the first one, Cortex. When I first got my 12.9 iPad Pro, I had an iPad Air 2 at the time, and I was using both. I was using the iPad Air 2 to read things and consume video and read Twitter and things like that. I think that's a great use case for that one. And then I was using the 12.9 to do all my work on. For me personally, I think that's kind of where I kind of fall into the multi-pad lifestyle. Now, right now, I just am using the second generation 12.9. I'm kind of waiting to see what is announced at WWDC. If we do get a bezel-less iPad, but it only comes in the 10.5-inch version, I will probably get one of those and then use the 12.9 at my desk and the bezel-less one as my reading on the go, take to work iPad. Make sense? But yeah, that's kind of where I fall into there. That the smaller one's great for traveling. The 12.9, I absolutely love the 12.9. It is my favorite of the iPads, but it is really big and it's really hard to sit down on the couch and read with. I've been having some problems with that. So I also have RSI issues. So like my wrists and stuff will start to hurt if I have to hold it for a really long time because of how heavy it is. So I think they both have their use cases. Somebody asked if you can do tagging in Notes. You can't do traditional tagging, but there is a search feature in Notes. So if you put like the pound symbol and then like video after that, you can search pound symbol video and it'll bring up that. So it's not true tagging. I would like to see true tagging come to Notes. I think that would be interesting. I basically left the Apple Notes because of that feature. Tagging just became a great way for me to organize everything. So I'm using Bear now. I'm using the Notes Bear. It's also a really beautiful app. They do so many great things with it. Speaking of tagging, in their latest update, they allow you to do custom tag icons. So you can change. I wish I could share my screen with you guys. You could do custom tags. So they have like icons and stuff that's pre in there, and that's pretty cool. Safari does very little to give a good desktop view. What apps do you recommend to get a good desktop view experience? I use Puffin web browser. What do you use? So, oh, do you need really quick? Do you need a subscription for Bear? Bear does have a subscription. It's $1.50 a month or $12 a year, I think. I don't remember. I'm sorry. You don't have to have it. If you need it to sync between multiple devices, then yes, you'll need the subscription. But if you just need your notes on one device, I think there's a few other things like some themes and stuff that are locked behind the subscription. I just pay for it. It's $12 a year. That's not that much money. It costs me more to go get a pizza. So, and that's for the whole year. So that's that. And if you kind of think about it that way, it's really not that big of a deal. Back to the desktop view question. I use iCab. So Safari is my main browser on iPad. That's what I do everything in. If I come across a website, so for my day job and stuff like this, I have to deal with really old and really poorly built websites. And they don't always work on touch devices. So when I do come across that, I use iCab. I just realized my microphone is sitting in the screen, the view. I use iCab for that. iCab is a great web browser. It's great for basically having to trick websites. I can't talk today. Trick websites into thinking it's something else. So you could actually go into iCab and tell it you're a Mac or you're a Windows computer or you're a Linux box or something like that. And that's what your device will tell the website that it is. So it'll force it to load that desktop view. If you're in Safari, you can also hold down on the refresh button and you'll get two options. You'll get load without content blocker. So if you use a, ad blocker or anything like that, and you also get request desktop view. Now that doesn't always work. So that's when I kind of fall back to the iCab page. Like I said, for my day job, I deal with terribly built websites every single day, and it's horrible. And there's not really a whole lot Apple can do. Third-party developers like iCab and Puffin, they kind of took it upon themselves to build browsers that'll kind of force websites to load properly, but really, it's up to web developers to fix their stuff. Like, it's kind of sad how we're in 2018 and there are still some websites that don't perform right on mobile devices. Not even just like iPhones or anything, but iPads and stuff like that. It's kind of sad, right? Like, come on, web developers. I say that not ever being a web developer. I've built my site and it's a Squarespace site. My laptop is no more. Everything I do on social media, email, texting, graphics, art, banking, news gathering, etc., I can do on my iPad Pro. Well, 99.8%. The 0.2% sites are not optimized for iPad. I've talked to some developers who promised they're working on the iPad problem. So this is kind of the same question, the same answer from before. It's really up to web developers. There's not really a whole lot you can do. You can use web browsers like Puffin or iCab. Hello, I know you focus on iPad as a productivity device, but can you highlight some fun things you can use iPad for, gaming, etc.? Yes. So I don't do a whole lot of gaming and stuff anymore. I used to do it more, but now that I really kind of got into videos and stuff, I really like focusing on that in my free time. So for me personally, gaming wise, actually, hold on one second. I'll see if I can find it. I have one of these, the MiFi controllers. They're the made for iPhone controllers. I actually really like this. I think this thing was $50. Magicx controller with Knights of the Old Republic. Yes. So that was kind of getting to my point right there. Is games like Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic support controller support on iPad. So if you get a $15 a year for Bear. So that's pretty good. It's still cheaper than a pizza like being delivered. So if you get one of these, this is really a cool controller and really good. You have to have a made for iPhone series. It's MFI controller. And there's a lot of great games that do support the controller. You can do some Google searches. There's a whole website, and I don't remember what it is, but if you just search made for iPhone controller supported games, it'll be like the top hit. There's a whole website that'll tell you all the games that are supported for the controller. Some of my favorites are Knights of the Old Republic, Crash Plan or Crash Planes, The Nimbus controller is great. I believe the Sonic games support controller, the Grand Theft Auto games support controller. I know we just recently got Fortnite and PUBG on iPad and iOS. I'd really love to see controller support come, but I kind of think it would give an unfair balance to those that own a controller versus those that don't own a controller. So I don't know if we'll ever get it. I know at one point the developer said they're working on it, but working on it and or getting it are very two different things. So controller support's fun. As far as like video stuff, in my last video, I don't know if you guys got to see it or not yet. I did a video about some of the new must-have iPad apps that kind of while I was on a break. Fortnite without a controller didn't. Yeah, it's really hard. Fortnite without a controller. I actually won my first round on iPhone when it first launched, but I think it was just because nobody knew how to control it, and I got really lucky. So yeah, it's hard. But yeah, my last video that I just did, the must-have apps and stuff like that, that was a really fun video to put together. Especially I got to look back at apps that were released and updates that were released to apps while I was kind of on my break. And one of the apps that I featured, even though it wasn't a new app at all, I just wanted to talk about it, was Picture-in-Picture, or YouTube, the YouTube Picture-in-Picture app. And that's a good one if you do watch a lot of YouTube. Some other stuff is like Plex. If you haven't heard of Plex, if you rip like Blu-rays or DVDs or something like that and you put them on a server, Plex does a really good job of organizing those, and then you can kind of see them on your device as you're kind of watching them and stuff like that. Other than that, that's kind of all the questions I got. You guys have any questions for me, or are we going to wrap up? What do you guys got for me? What are you guys excited for about WWDC? We're almost a week away, and we're about ready to get some new updates, iOS 12, iPad stuff. Is there anything you guys want to see? What's some stuff that you guys like? I know for me, I'm curious what we're gonna get. We haven't heard a lot of rumors, and so it's either gonna be a real quiet year or there's gonna be a ton of surprises. And honestly, I know my job's kind of to talk about this stuff, but I really dislike rumors. USB-C on iPhone. I don't think it's ever gonna happen. Lightning does the same thing USB-C does. It's reversible. It's reversible sides. It's small, and Apple is all in on it. If they did USB-C, it would break a lot of accessory support and things like that. I think they kind of learned their lesson from the 30 when they left the 30 pin and went to Lightning. I think that was hard enough. I don't know if there's enough gains for them to get out of USB-C. I want improvements to tagging and enhanced Files app. Yes, that's something we talk about in the next episode of A Slab of Glass. I definitely would love to see Files app 2.0. There needs to be better tagging. There needs to be better file support. There's all sorts of things it needs to be improved upon. File extensions, handling local file support better, integrations with workflow, things like that. I was trying to put together a workflow the other day, and I didn't realize, and I don't know why, but there is no X callback URL for the Files app, so you can't do anything with the Files app. You can do stuff with the services, so you can do stuff with iCloud and you can do stuff with Dropbox and things like that. But with the Files app itself, you can't do anything with, which is kind of a disappointment. I'm curious to see what we'll get for tvOS. Oh, here we go. As silly as it seems, I'd really like to see new iterations of the iPhone 5C. I don't care about the iPhone 10 or the iPhone 8. The iPhone 5 or the iPhone SE. The iPhone SE. Yeah, so I totally get people want the smaller phone. It makes sense. It's been a little while since we've seen it. But yeah, I don't know. We hear rumors that it's coming, but then we don't see anything. So I honestly don't know anything about it. I'd like to see it kind of get an iPhone 10 update, so kind of a little more bezel-less, Face ID, things like that, make it a little more modern. I saw another question about compiling code on iPad. Yes, that's something I really want Apple to ease up on. Like, why is it so strict that that you can't compile code? Like, I get originally why you couldn't compile code on the original iPad or even on the iPhone before that. The devices just didn't have enough power, but now they absolutely do. I edit 4K video on my device. Like, this thing is more powerful than my first MacBook. Absolutely, you should be able to. at the very least for iOS, it seems odd, let alone for the rest. Yeah, like why can't you build an iOS device on iOS? In order for the iPad to be a true independent platform, you have to be able to build for the platform on the platform, right? Make sense? Everybody with me? So I don't know why we're not quite there yet. Um, I have a feeling, I have a very sneaky suspicion that they're working on Xcode for the iPad. It's not going to be a quick thing. Like it'll actually take some time to build. So hopefully it's coming. Um, I if not this year, I would say next year. I think next year's kind of pushing it to like the okay, this is kind of getting like a little scary that we can't build iPad apps for the iPad yet on the iPad. So Xcode for the iPad, hopefully that's coming soon. Other questions or anything else? I think WWDC. So the way this stuff's gonna work is Jeff and I are gonna record a episode of A Slab of Glass that day, either right after the keynote or that night. Just kind of depends on work schedules and things like that. So that'll be kind of the first reactions, and then throughout the summer, just depending on what stuff is announced, I'm gonna be making videos on that content as well. So make sure you're subscribed to A Slab of Glass if you're not already. What do you guys think of the show? For those that are listening already, what do you guys think of A Slab of Glass? It's the podcast Jeff Perry and I do about the iPad. What else would you guys like to see from iOS 12 and WWDC? See, something I think would be interesting is it's kind of a more robust home screen. Supposedly it's coming. I would like to see a better home screen design. We've had the same springboard since the very first version of the iPhone, the same grid layout. It's kind of time we do get something new, right? You guys also see, can you load a podcast on your Apple Watch? Yes, there is an app called Outcast, I think. Yeah, it's a blue icon that you can get, and you can put a podcast on there. What's the best reminders app instead of the best one? I find it hard to use. Probably I use it the wrong way. No, you don't use the reminders app the wrong way. Trust me on this. It's a terrible application. The built-in reminders app is horrible. I use Todoist every day. I've been playing around with Things 3. I just talked about it in my last video. I'm not ready to completely jump the ship. I need to figure out some more of my automation tools that I use in Todoist for Things 3 before I jump over. And then there. OmniFocus, oh, I'm coming back to that question, I promise. OmniFocus is coming out. OmniFocus 3 is coming out this coming Wednesday. And OmniFocus has always been big in the Apple community. It's never quite clicked in my brain. But for those that really do like OmniFocus 3, I've been on the beta. It's pretty cool. I don't know if I'm going to do a video on it or not, just because OmniFocus has never quite clicked for me, and I don't think it would be fair for me to do it. I think there's going to be plenty of people talking about it. I'm probably just not the person to do it, because I've never really used OmniFocus. I saw a question pop up that not necessarily kickstand devices bulky. Okay, kickstand devices on tablets and stuff, I absolutely dislike them. I do not like them at all. They don't work in my lap. They don't work on small tables or anything like that. What are the main limitations of reminders? It's just not built very well. The design is terrible. The great thing it has is it has native Siri support, and that's about it. Like but it's just not built very well. I don't like the design. I don't like the card layout. I think it's terrible. I saw a question come up, asked about what do you think about if Apple bought LumaFusion and turned it into Final Cut? I don't think they would do that. I think they would have their own team do it. Apple has a pretty big team working on like the Final Cut and the Logic apps and stuff like that. I think they would probably keep that because the LumaFusion guys are actually used to work for Avid, and that's where they came from. So I don't know if those two would transfer over. I hope they wouldn't buy it, because I would want LumaFusion to stick around and kind of hold Apple's feet to the fire to make sure they keep improving Final Cut. What are some apps and stuff that you guys have been using lately that you really like? Anything in particular? I know for me, I really like Things 3. I'm probably going to switch to it full time eventually. I just need to figure out some automation stuff. For me personally, I've kind of been seeing this a lot lately that people talk, that people want me to focus more on free apps. And whereas I think free apps are great, I kind of have a philosophy of I like to pay for my apps because I use them for my work. Free apps are great to try around and play with and things like that. But as far as productivity tools go, you want them to keep being updated. And, you know, as new versions of iOS come out, you want the new system features and stuff to work with them. And you need them to be updated. And the only way developers can really do that is if they're making money off it. Because everybody, you guys, me, all of our time is worth something. So I like to see that come up. Personally, I like to... I like to pay for everything. So I know the new model is subscription based. I like that. Some apps are pay up front, like Things. But I try to only use apps that I can pay for. Like LumaFusion, I wish I could give them even more money than what I've already, because I need that app to continue. If LumaFusion goes away, then I don't really have anything else to edit video on my iPad. I'd have to go back to my Mac. So yeah, I think there's a lot that you could do. I think Apple should make a microphone. They used to make a camera and stuff. Like, are you talking like a microphone that plugs into your phone or something for video? Is the audio not very good on this? I've never done one of these before, so I have no idea how it's turning out. I hope you guys can just hear me. So we'll see. I thought I saw a question pop up about GoodNotes, but I didn't get a chance to read it quick enough. If you wouldn't mind copying and pasting it back in. I don't know if I can go back into this. Let's see here. I don't know if I can pull up previous notes. Oh, hang on. Here we go. Audio is fine. Thank you. You can pull up previous notes. Okay. I'm obsessed with using GoodNotes 4 for my bullet journaling. I've switched to paper. I switched from paper planners completely now. Yeah, GoodNotes is a great application. I really like GoodNotes. I also found another one called Notebooks. Give me 1 second here. Noteflow. Sorry, I was totally blanking on the name. All of them have note in it. GoodNotes, Notability, Noteflow. They all have note in it. It's hard to keep straight. Noteflow is great because it supports the Files app. So if you need Files app support, that's great. What was the question? I saw something about AirPods. I picked up AirPods recently and I thought it was a gimmick, but yes, I was late to the AirPod game because I thought the same thing too. When pre-orders finally came around for the AirPods, I pre-ordered them and I canceled the pre-order in the same day because I was like, I don't need wireless headphones. At the time, I was driving in my car a lot for work, so I didn't really use headphones that much. But I got them for Christmas this last year, and wow, they're so good. Though I did have to reset them recently. Like, I kept having this problem where they would just randomly disconnect as I was using them. So I had to reset them, and ever since I reset them, they seem to be fine. So that's kind of weird. What else is going on? So yeah, Noteflow is a great app. I was talking about that. File support. I really want to see apps have more file support, things like that, be able to, talk about and integrate with like iCloud or Dropbox or local storage or whatever. I want to be able to see more of that. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up unless any of you guys have any final questions or anything for me. We've been going for about 30 minutes now, so that's kind of a long time. So anybody have any final questions or thoughts or anything? All right, well, thank you guys so much for watching. This has kind of been my first live video, so I'm curious to hear what you guys think about it. Let me know. Have a good holiday too. 3-day weekends, I love those. Lets me work on more videos. WWDC is coming up in just a couple weeks, so we'll be doing some stuff on A Slab of Glass. Then I'll be doing some stuff throughout the summer on this channel right here. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have an awesome day.